Good morning, you're watching World News and I'm your host, Klaudia Czerwińska. Gdańsk is hosting a two-day gathering of European Commission officials set to present plans to tackle challenges posed by e-commerce platforms. The visit has been delayed due to the Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's health. During the visit, the College of Commissioners will meet with Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk. The talks will revolve around priorities for the upcoming 6 months of the Polish presidency and the EU Council. Security in the region will be a key point of concern for Polish authorities. Additionally, several commissioners are expected to meet with the UN High Commissioner for Refugees, Filippo Grandi, this week. This comes after EU's internal affairs ministers failed to shed light on the concept of so-called return hubs last week. Polish Foreign Minister Radosław Sikorski is going to meet with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte today. The meeting will take place at NATO headquarters in Brussels. On Wednesday, Minister Sikorski took part in the annual conference of EU ambassadors. Poland currently holds the rotating presidency in the Council of the European Union. Sikorski's presence at the conference came at the request of the EU High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy, Kaja Kallas. It's also at Kallas's request that the Polish foreign minister will represent the European Union at the United Nations Security Council, as well as upcoming visits to Pakistan, Zimbabwe, and Sri Lanka. The Polish Foreign Ministry has deemed Donald Trump's proposal to relocate Palestinians from the Gaza Strip unfeasible. In a social media post, the ministry pointed out that Poland recognizes the Palestinian state and advocates for a two-state solution to the conflict in the Middle East.
Minister Radosław Sikorski has deemed President Trump's proposal to relocate the residents of the Gaza Strip as unfeasible. But we are open to discussing the US plan for providing security for these people. The minister emphasized that Poland recognizes Palestine and advocates for a two-state solution.
U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has said the Trump administration is identifying and designating programs that will be exempted from the sweeping stop work orders issued for USAID. The administration said it would put on leave all directly hired employees of the agency and recall thousands of personnel abroad. On Wednesday, the United States stopped purchases for foreign food aid programs, hindering organizations providing humanitarian support in Ukraine.
Our preference was to go into USAID and work from the top down in identifying all of our programs. What are all the programs we fund around the world? Which are the ones that make us safer, stronger, and more prosperous? Which are the ones that align us with the foreign policy of the United States? And which are the ones that we should not be involved in? Not only is this a good idea, we owe it to the American taxpayer because this is taxpayer money. This is not a charity. These are not private funds. This is American taxpayer funds.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has commented on Donald Trump's move to freeze Washington's international aid efforts. In a brief statement, Zelenskyy said he wouldn't even dare to think what would happen should Ukraine lose U.S. support. The leader also added that without past assistance, they could have lost the country already.
We have no reduction in American support today. It has not stopped. It continues. I am grateful to the United States for this. Of course, we are not talking about new packages. It's too early to talk about it, but we have started to communicate with the American team. As for whether we can survive without this aid, you know, we were without this aid at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, and it was very difficult. We could have lost the country. Thanks to our people and army, and of course our partners, we survived. And I would not even like to fantasize what would happen should the war continue, but it would be a war between Russia and Ukraine without the United States of America.
President Donald Trump's much-anticipated plan to end Russia's war in Ukraine may be presented at the next week's Munich Security Conference in Germany. The Bloomberg News Agency reports that American allies are expecting to be briefed on the proposals by the U.S. Special Envoy for Ukraine and Russia, Keith Kellogg. Kellogg posted on social media that he will be speaking about Trump's goal to end the conflict in Ukraine. Vice President J.D. Vance will also attend a 3-day high-level summit. The Munich meeting takes place from February 14th to 16th, a week before the conflict enters its third year of fighting. It has been previously reported that the U.S. plan may involve freezing the war on current front lines and providing security guarantees to Kyiv to prevent further attacks from Moscow. Earlier this week, Ukraine's President Zelenskyy said he was prepared to speak with Vladimir Putin if the U.S. and EU were involved in the talks. Russia and Ukraine swapped 150 prisoners of war on Wednesday. Last afternoon, Kyiv was filled with sounds of jubilation as families reunited with the released detainees.
Mothers, wives and children gathered in Kyiv this afternoon as buses filled with released Ukrainian prisoners of war arrived at the city gates.
Here he is, look. Everything is wonderful, Sasha. Don't cry. Easy, my dear.
Easy, my dear.
Russian soldiers also rejoiced at the prospect of returning home.
When we crossed the border line, that was it. The weight went off my shoulders.
Though they have to wait for their reunions. According to Russia's defense ministry, the released prisoners are currently in allied Belarus, where they are receiving psychological and medical assistance. The prisoner exchange was brokered by the United Arab Emirates, which has also mediated previous exchanges. The merriment was also shared by Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, who took to X to say,
Today is a good day for all of us. We are bringing home 150 of our defenders from Russian captivity. These are soldiers, sergeants and officers, warriors of the Navy who were taken prisoner in Mariupol and the Zaporizhia region, warriors of the Air Force, Air Assault Forces, Land Forces, National Guard, Border Guards, warriors of the Territorial Defense Forces, and a police officer. They served in different parts of the front line, but they share one thing in common. They fought for Ukraine.
And as the war in Ukraine is soon to enter its third year, these personal moments of joy serve as a reminder of what is at stake.
This weekend, Latvia, Lithuania and Estonia will decouple from Russia's power grid and synchronize with the Western European energy network. Latvia will cut the power line to Russia on February the 8th in a ceremony attended by Baltic state leaders and President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. According to the Lithuanian energy minister, the move ends Russia's ability to use energy as leverage. The groundwork for transition had been laid down by the Baltic for years. Despite phasing out Russian LNG and energy imports following the 2022 invasion of Ukraine, their power grids remain linked with Belarus and the Russian Federation. On February 8th at 7 a.m. local time, the three countries will move to so-called isolation mode for 24 hours to establish whether the local grid can manage power consumption levels. Then they will integrate with European Union's power grid through a link with Poland. Former Polish Defense Minister Mariusz Błaszczak has revealed secret and top-secret documents on Poland's defense plans against a potential Russian invasion from over a decade ago. That's precisely why Poland's Attorney General wants to strip the ex-minister of his immunity. Facing potential criminal charges, the former official from the Law and Justice opposition party has said he would gladly do it again.
Former Minister of Defense and one of the prominent members of the main opposition party in Poland, Mariusz Błaszczak, has no regrets when it comes to revealing top-secret state documents.
They asked me what I would do if I was faced with that decision once again. Well, let me tell you, I would make that exact same decision.
In an election ad in 2023, the right-wing former official claimed the plans of defense around the year 2011, during the previous term of Prime Minister Donald Tusk, placed Poland's potential line of defense against the Russians along the Vistula River, effectively giving up about half of Poland. The state prosecution argues ex-minister Błaszczak, contrary to what he says, did not declassify these documents for the good of the country.
The Attorney General believes former Minister Błaszczak revealed these documents for his own and his party's personal gain, breaking procedure for the purposes of the election campaign.
Members of the ruling coalition also point out that these plans, even those stored in archives, revealed parts of NATO strategy and Polish troops cooperating with NATO forces.
He gave up some variants of Polish defense plans on a plate, like a restaurant waiter, to all the foreign intelligence agencies. These were different scenarios prepared in part with NATO.
The conservative politicians, on the other hand, don't even wish to recognize the legitimacy of the current Polish judiciary.
Does it really mean that we have a full democracy in Poland when the rulers only have immunity and the opposition does not? That's why Minister Błaszczak decided to defend himself.
Avoiding accountability for potential malpractices has been one of the recurring themes of the conservative camp in recent weeks. Former Minister of Justice Zbigniew Ziobro is now facing potential temporary detention after avoiding investigative hearings 5 times. One of his former deputies has fled to Hungary, and the former head of the State Reserves Agency is detained in the UK, awaiting extradition proceedings. Mariusz Błaszczak says he won't give up his immunity voluntarily either. It remains to be seen whether the former Minister of Defense, Mariusz Błaszczak, will actually lose his immunity. For revealing secret and top-secret documents, he could be facing up to 5 years in prison. From Warsaw, TVP World, Kazimierz Łyczek.
A historical warehouse has caught fire in the Polish port city of Gdańsk. As many as 30 firefighter crews have been dispatched to battle the blaze, which spread to over 2,500 square meters. No fatalities or injuries have been reported. The hall, once used to service rail rolling stock, burst into flames around 1 p.m. local time on Wednesday. 60 people had to be evacuated from the burning building. The fire was reported to have reached the roof of the warehouse, covering the surrounding area in clouds of smoke. Responding to the incident, the Polish Internal Security Agency is investigating whether the fire was caused by foreign intelligence services. The location of the fire raised the suspicion of Polish authorities, as the warehouse sits near the port in Gdańsk, which is used to transport supplies to Ukraine. We want to use every single legal opportunity to recover this money for Poland, Polish Minister for EU Adam Szłapka said at a press briefing on Wednesday. Szłapka was referring to the enormous fine imposed by the European Commission in 2019, dubbed the €1 million per day penalty.
In 2019, the opposition and NGOs, as well as judges' associations, all warned that the Law and Justice Party's judicial reform would cause us, Poland, to lose money. And yet, due to the stubbornness of those in power, we lost the money. What I want to say now is that despite the fact that it is the sole responsibility of the Law and Justice Party that we had to pay the fine, we will appeal this decision. This is because we want to use every legal possibility to get this money back for Poland. This sum could have supported the Polish economy. It is money from the Cohesion Fund of the European Union, and that is why we will fight for it. But I would like to reiterate that the sole responsibility for the loss of the money lies with the former Minister of Justice, Zbigniew Ziobro, and the Law and Justice Party.
King Charles III had the opportunity to learn all about Polish art, food, and culture while visiting the Polish Social and Cultural Association in London. King Charles walked through a freshly opened art exhibition before talking to the community center members and inspecting traditional Polish dishes and clothing. The Polish Social and Cultural Association in Hammersmith, which organized the event, is the largest Polish culture center in Europe outside of Poland. During the visit, the editor-in-chief of the British Post gifted the king with the English translation of the report prepared by Captain Witold Pilecki on the situation and atrocities within the Nazi German Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration and death camp. The move came after the king's controversial speech, where he failed to mention Poles as victims of the camp. According to the center's staff, this is the second time King Charles has visited the facility, with his last visit taking place 15 years ago, when he was still the Prince of Wales. And with that, we end our service, but please do stay tuned, as we're back in just a moment with more news, features, and interviews.